to my channel. It's your girl Sharon, aka the Melanin Nostalgic Runner, and we're back for another episode of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And this is season 6, and this is episode 6. It's called Out of Gas. Child, Salt Lake. Gotta give them their 10s. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. This was an amazing episode, and a lot happened. And I know we've said this multiple times, but Meredith is definitely giving friend of this season. It was kind of a similar situation last season. And we got more out of a lot. The women are working overtime on the show. They are. And the other thing that I want to say takeaway wise, I've been telling y'all, you've heard it from me first. Heather is back to the Heather we used to know. I knew she was going to come back. I knew she was going to come back to the light. I knew it. And looks like from previews from next episode, Heather is holding the girls accountable yet again. So I told you she was not going to stay in that pick-me mode. And I know a lot of y'all were giving her a hard time because of her history throughout the years with Lisa. But I think when she starts seeing that this is a pattern and she might be in danger, it might be her next. So, now, given she's not doing it for the right reasons, she just realizes, oh crap, I will be next on the hot seat. This is what she does every season. It's a rinse and repeat. And she even said that it's a rinse and repeat. She don't want no part of it, so she's getting off the ride. And I knew it. I knew she was going to eventually confront Lisa. I knew this was not going to be confessional thoughts only. And she did. But anyway, let's get into the episode. So we do start off the episode with Angie FaceTiming Heather. And Angie is showing complete remorse of how she acted at the luncheon. And Heather is holding her accountable as well. She's like, yeah, you two were mean to each other and you have some, you got to fix that. And Angie definitely does give off that she comes from a place of remorse when it comes through this. And, but when it comes to her and Lisa's friendship, she doesn't see it. She just doesn't like how she basically, Lisa brought out the bad in her. And I can totally understand that. I was in a very bad situation years and years ago with the ex, and he brought the very worst in me. And I have the tools to avoid those type of people. And anytime where I feel an inkling that I'm going to be outside my own character, I won't even entertain it. Like, that's just where I'm at. And with friendships, though, it's a little bit more difficult to see that right away. I think when it comes to your romantic partners, the signs are usually, at least for me, this is my perspective. Like, usually for romantic partners, you can't see the signs right away because it's a very rinse and repeat type of behavior. With friendships, it's a little bit more complex and a little bit more complicated. But either way, they do talk about the Lisa of it all, and we also talk about the Mary of it all. And, Angie's like, I know where Lisa and I are at. I'm going to leave it there. But when it comes to Mary, I care about that. It really bothers me that we're not good. I'm going to work to fix it. And Heather's just like, yeah, wow. And Angie was like, surprising, huh? She's like, yeah, because we had to be very mindful. What was it, maybe 3 seasons ago or 2 seasons ago? So it wasn't this season, the season before that, but the season before that. Mary was not giving Angie anything, and now they're besties. And you could tell it's very organic. It's so cool. It's so beautiful. I love it for both of them because anytime where a show can actually foster real friendships, that's awesome. And hopefully they stay that way, and hopefully the show doesn't break up their friendship that the show helped create. And based off this episode, I think we're in good hands. But anyway, Heather does mention though that they're going on a trip. they're going to some, I think they're going to some, I don't know where they're going. They're going somewhere where there is an island involved, but mainly the main focus is they're going to be on a giant yacht. And previews for next episode, it looks like this is that cameo of like the below deck people. So they're going to be on one of those below deck ships. So basically keeping it within the Bravo family. And that's what the trip's going to be. So they're going to be on international waters, passports, which is awesome because we already know that these girls have been suffering, for 4 seasons where they couldn't go anywhere because of Jen Shaw of it all. And now they could actually do what the other housewives do. And really, since they've been working overtime to keep the Bravo lights on, they deserve it. So I love that their first trip is already going to be an amazing trip, and I'm here for it. Next. So then next, and this is a little bit of an Easter egg. We probably should have saw something was going on here. Bronwyn meets up with Todd. And they go to this ice cream shop. They get quite a few different ice creams. And, I was looking at it, I was like, man, I haven't had ice cream in so long. There used to be this ice cream shop. We're going to side note it like we always do. But, like, there used to be the ice cream shop in Andersonville that was, like, local, that me and my ex, I don't have a problem with him other than, like, he stays over here, I stay over here. We don't, the continents don't meet anymore. But anyway, we used to go to this ice cream shop that was there. It was a family-owned ice cream shop that's been in the neighborhood for generations and closed 2 summers ago. I tried the new ice cream shop that's there, but actually stop. There's no ice cream shop there. I think now it's the fudge shop. But anyway, the point is, I haven't had ice cream like at ice cream shop since then. And that used to be like a treat. Like, even pre-pandemic and even a little bit during that was a treat to go to that ice cream shop. And I don't know, it just made me think of that. But anyway, so they talk, Bronwyn mentions about how she's basically having some small talk. Todd looks annoyed. Todd, this whole entire time in this conversation, looks like he doesn't want to be there because it's very obvious he doesn't want to film. What I'm getting from Todd is he doesn't understand why she wants to be on the show so bad. I know we keep saying it in the form of Lisa. Lisa's part of it, but I think what Todd really is saying throughout this episode is that he doesn't understand her need to want to be on this show. And so anyway, she's basically talking about how she loves this ice cream shop and she loves, getting the sundae. But the thing that she really likes is when she finally gets to enjoy the cherry, and she hates it when he eats the only cherry. And then within 5 seconds of her saying that, he literally goes and eats the cherry right in front of her, just as a matter of fact. And I was like, wow. And she was like, I literally just said da 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 da. She's kind of throwing a little bit of a mini tantrum. And I ain't gonna hold you. The way I interpret that was, I get to have the cherry because you're making me film. You already know I don't want to be on this show, so I get the cherry every single time. Anyway, and so they talk about, Bronwyn recaps what happened at the bruncheon, and she basically said, aren't you happy? I actually didn't get into it with anyone. Like, Lisa and I stayed away from each other, and Todd doesn't care. Todd's like, okay, good for you. You want a cookie. And she is actually, you could tell Bronwyn's getting so bothered that Todd will not play along for the cameras, but he's just not with it. He doesn't care. And then she basically recaps how Lisa and Angie were the ones that got into it instead, and she stayed out of it. And then she mentioned that she is not sure if it was a good idea that she patched things up with Lisa as quickly as she did. A little bit of Easter egg here. And Todd's like, you already know how I feel about this, so there's no point in us repeating this conversation. Like, I don't understand your need to want to be cool with Lisa. Todd, she wants to stay on the show. And Todd's like, I don't care. Why do you want to be on the show? See, these are the things I'm sure Bronwyn this is a repeat of a thing. But anyway, Bronwyn is starting to actually get offended, because then the other thing that Bronwyn brings up is the psychic of it all, and how the psychic mentioned, or the medium, or whoever he is, the gifted guy who was there, Trevor, and how I think his name was Trevor, and how he mentioned about her mom, and then also mentioned that she needs to basically make peace with however her mom is towards her, and they just need to like let things go. And Todd is just still saying very no nonsense. And I think with Todd, what I'm starting to notice, and maybe I'm trying to give him a bit of the doubt a little too much, I don't think Todd knows the difference between when Bronwyn is playing for the cameras and really saying stuff for storyline versus what she means genuinely. Because everyone on the show, of course, they might be saying things and taking it a step up for the cameras. And then there's other times when they really are saying things from their heart. And in the case when Bronwyn was talking about her mom, to me, it seemed like she really was speaking from the heart. She wasn't as bothered by Todd not caring about Lisa and like all that. It was really the mom thing that really triggered her. And she was just like, she started crying. She's like, I wish you would just give me something here. I don't feel heard. And Todd, was still in his playfulness of it all. Because I think him giving her a hard time and essentially like busting her balls is his love language. It might be part of their banter. But when she started crying is when he finally realized, oh crap, she's like actually upset now. And so he took a step back and he's like, okay, I'm sorry. I get that, this means something to you, because he definitely is one of those guys who doesn't believe in the psychics or none of those things. And so he wasn't really giving her anything. And Bronwyn just isn't really the best when it comes to she's horrible when it comes to rejection. We know that about her. And also too, she is not good. I mean, she, basically did state that this bothered her, but I have a feeling she doesn't do this off camera. I think she really has a tough time expressing herself to people she looks up to. And I think her having the camera in front of her is where she actually feels free enough to actually say how she feels. I don't know if y'all get that from her, but I'm starting to get that vibe that that's part of it too. So she does start tearing up, and Todd realizes, oh crap, okay, I get that, I'm sorry. And he basically apologizes to her, and he's like, okay, I get that. I allow the space. And he fixes it a little bit. And that's kind of really how this scene ends. Okay, so then next, sorry, I used this microphone earlier on, so I'm not sure if it's going to go out or not. Because I need to get a microphone where it beeps or something. And I have another microphone, you already know, for those who've been on my channel, where I had a different setup from before, but I don't like that setup as much because it's a lot of work to set it up, and this is just a lot more easier of a go thing. But anyway, I digress. So then next we have a scene with Lisa and John, her husband, and she talks about how she's looking forward to this trip, and then she just immediately starts shading. She's like, yeah, it's like, she's shading the whole trip. She's basically saying, I would want to be on the trip. Like, normally when we go on these trips, we're there for 2 weeks versus like the 4 days. And it's like, this is your problem, Lisa. Anyway, but we're starting to even see the cracks when it comes to her communication. She's saying that they're having communication issues and she doesn't feel heard. She, she feels like the balance between their family, business, and marriage is tricky, and it's been a problem ever since they got married. And John, in his responses, if you pay attention to his responses, towards the end it's pretty obvious, but the whole entire time, he is not doing his John thing that he normally does. It's showing that his resentment is seeping through. Because it seems like that Lisa doesn't take accountability for anything ever. It's not just with the girls, it's with everything and everyone. And I think John is starting to get sick of it too. And Lisa, and to her degree, she doesn't feel heard. She doesn't feel addressed. And it's like, Lisa, with love, go to therapy. Because I feel like there's a lot going on here. But basically, in this whole entire scene, you basically see that the mask that they've been putting on throughout the years on the show is off. It's off. You can see it all over John's face. And really, if you've been paying attention in previous seasons, John would always just say, wherever you want Lisa, wherever you want Lisa. He would basically, they will always come up. And really, I think it wasn't as obvious when they were going against others, because they're going to present as a unite front when they're going against others. But then when the dust settles and it's just them two, they're not good. So that's kind of where it ends. And Lisa this whole entire time is crying. She's just like, I don't know how to fix it. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at with this. We'll talk about this. We'll elaborate more on Lisa later on in this review. Moving on. Side note, I can tell Mercury the retrograde is coming up because me and words have been kicking my ass lately. All words. The simplest of words that should not bother me, WWE kicking my ass. Like, I'm like, what is happening? Why are words hard right now? Anyway, so moving on, we get to the scene where Mary does go to see Angie at her place. And unlike the usual, Angie actually answers the door. Mary doesn't let herself in. And you can tell Mary just wants to be mad at her. She wants to stay mad. Spoiler, do you think she stays mad at her? No. And this scene was easily one of my favorite scenes this episode. It was just so good to me. Like, Mary and Angie, I think without them two, this show would not be that great. Them two make the show for me, but I think every single woman on this show makes the show. But them two especially, that organic friendship and then talking things through, it resonates with me on so many levels. So for those who don't know, I think I shared with on my channel that September was a very bad month for me. It was really, really bad. I had some family news that happened, and I was also fighting with my best friend at the same time because miscommunication happened with it. Like, I kind of lashed out on said person, and they didn't take too kindly to that. I basically was Angie in the situation, but then as we broke things down, then I was more Angie in the situation, honestly. I really was Angie in the situation. I was trying to say, was I like Mary? No, I wasn't. And I know some of y'all don't like to hear the stars and moons of it all when it comes to the zodiacs, but it actually makes sense how I was Angie in the situation because my Mars, so for those who know, you already know, my sun is Aries, my moon is Libra, which is why I resonate with Mary when it comes to a lot of things. But then my Mars, so basically aspects of how I handle conflict, is Scorpio. And I believe Angie is a Scorpio. And so when I get really, really mad and triggered, like once that switch of me going to war happens, I operate like a Scorpio. I do not operate like an Aries. I'm not a quick burn when it comes to being upset. I am when it comes to things that irritate me, but things that truly upset me, it takes a whole lot. I pile it on, and then once I pile on, then I'm very like, ugh, like it's the sting. The stinger will sting. But I try not to do that when it comes to any of my friends or people I really care about, because when I do that, it's calculated, it's thought out, and it's me basically burning the bridge. Like, I will never talk to you again if it gets to the point where I react in that type of way. So I get Angie when it comes to how she just let the stinger sting, because to me, I know we're harking back a little bit to last week's episode. Angie and her like crashing out last week, understand that wasn't just about this episode. this was all her years of frustration pinned up, and she let it go. And so she looked crazy at the luncheon because she let years and years of frustration pop off. And part of me wishes, when she was talking with Mary about her, why she did that, I wish she could have articulated that, but I don't think Angie knows at this point why. I don't think she understands this is what it was, that she was. I think she said it, but I don't think she said it directly as a matter of fact where Mary could understand it. Because from Mary's perspective, when they're talking about, because by the way, as soon as they get seated, they waste no time. They get right to it. Get right to the conversation, which is I love that. That was literally how me and my best friend, how we handled it. We got seated. I made a little jokey joke, and then we got right to it. As far as like, what are the issues? What do we need to resolve? Because I want us to be good, but if you want to stay mad at me longer, we can do that too. But I didn't really want that, you know, because I wasn't coming from a space of Mary. I feel like if we would have met earlier, I would have came from the space of Mary where I wanted to stay mad, because I actually saw my best friend like probably a week or so before we actually had the talk, and I was full on Mary. I was like, yeah, no, I'm staying mad at you because F you. Even though he was cracking me up, and because we were like this giant group setting, because we're all part of the same like group of friends. And so like, I don't stop going my things, and he don't stop. It was a whole funny thing. And like, I even caught him laughing at some of my jokes. And then we both just went to, nope, not talking to you. And the way this happened in this scene remind me, I felt like I was looking at a mirror of our conflict. Because that's how friends be sometimes. Because especially when you're like, a lot of times a beef be about nothing for real. It's never anything too serious. It's just miscommunication, war. And that's literally what this was. So, Mary said just the lashing out that triggers her, like she doesn't deal with that, and she normally just deads things. And then she confesses both in her confessional and to Angie, which I very much appreciated, was that she is not close to people. So she cuts people off as soon as she sees a little bit of conflict. I need Mary to work on that, and I think she is trying to work on it. And I think Angie is someone who is helping her work through that. But it's not going to be something that she's able to change overnight. Like, because we found that out about her last season towards the end when they got in their first argument. But this time, they patched things up so quickly. This time, to me, it seems like. Hopefully this was the only conflict. I don't want any other conflict. But right now, I know today they're cool. And they're still besties. So they need to stay there. Okay? Because I love their friendship. Mary's just like, I don't like that you let a minimal issue take you outside your character. And I felt that because when you crash out, that's what happens. And when it came to my conflict I was the one that crashed out. I was the crash out. So I get it. And it hurt. And the thing is, on the side of Angie, which I completely identify with because this is somewhat recent for me, you have this guilt. You hate that you did that. But what can you do now? But now you're just like, it's just so... And then you overthink things and you make up these scenarios that aren't really real in your head. It's a whole entire thing. And basically, Mary did mention that, you know, the way she reacted triggered her, and she basically was like, Angie, tighten up, do better. And because Angie was at the point where she was seeing red and everybody was her enemy, like at that moment. And I get that. I feel that. But Angie did finally state something that I'm glad she said. But I think I really hope and wish, and maybe she did in the cutscenes, I wish she would expound on it, where she said, I feel like I walk on eggshells around you. And I get why, because Mary is so quick to be like, this is not a sisterhood. You're not acting like my sister. I'm done with you. Like, she says a lot of, when she's upset, instead of saying, I'm mad at you right now, give me some time, give me space, she very much is always in the cutoff mode. Like, we're done. Like, it's very definite. And so I need Mary when it comes to her communication and also her conflict resolution and her working on her not doing the cutting off of friends. She needs to work on that, on not saying definite things like that, because it's hurtful. It's extremely hurtful. Like, and actually, my best friend did a similar thing. And he, like, at the point, he was so mad that he did that. And then I told him afterwards, when we were talking, I was like, you said something really definite, so it really hurt my feelings. Like, I was really hurt. And he's like, damn. I was like, yeah. I was like, it hurt. Like, that hurts. It hurts. So, friends, when y'all argue back and forth with each other, learn from watching this scene. There's a lot of things that went really, really well when it came to their communication, but there's things that you can see that people need to work on. And I feel like in a lot of friendships, not all, but you will have a dynamic that's very similar. And I'm noticing that this dynamic is very similar to like a friendship I have. And, I'm working on that though. Because I am the one who will eggshell it. Like, I'm more the eggshell one because I am very anti-confrontational. And the thing is, Mary herself is also anti-confrontational, and that's why they're arguing over Angie being confrontational. So it's very, oh man, so mirroring. But in the middle of this argument, Mary's like, you're so mean. You start talking about my farts. And I love that Mary held on to that and started elaborating on that, because I think that was her way. I don't know if she knew if she was doing this, but I think it was her subconscious way of saying, I forgive you, girl, but I want to be mad at you. Because if she really was mad and really wanted to be done with the friendship, she would have never brought up something that silly. Okay? Because I think she knows she was being... You saw in Mary's eyes that she was being silly. She's like... I was like, I can't. But they do end up making up. They do cry about it. And, Angie's like, I am willing to work on this friendship with you. And Angie's like, and Mary's like, I'm willing to work on this friendship with you too. Just understand, like, it is hard for me to get close to people. Like, this friendship that I have with you, like, it's one of 20 years. Like, I think the last time I felt this way was 20 years ago. And Angie's like, you're my person and I'm your person. Like, we are meant to be best friends. Like, we're sisters. Like, let's fix this. And they fix it. And why, as I'm talking right now, I'm getting teary-eyed, because it was literally, because it was beautiful. It was beautiful. But I resonate with this scene probably more than I should, and probably more than previous times, because I literally had a similar experience like a month ago when I was kind of at my lowest. When it came to my emotions and stuff. So I appreciate the scene, and this is clearly easily my favorite scene of this episode. Moving on. All right, from the heartwarming to the petty. We see Heather meets up with Lisa at this shop, and they're just kind of going shopping for, probably clothes and wares and stuff like that for their vacation they're going to have. And Lisa is taking no accountability when it comes to her conflict with Angie. She's still bad-mouthing Angie, saying all these horrible things about her. And I love that Heather is finally she's like, no, you guys were saying bad things to each other. This makes no sense. And I don't know in what land of delusion does Lisa live in where she believes this. But I was like, Lisa, with love, like, you two were matching each other's energy the whole time. That's all it was. Like, you can't say that, Angie's a horrible person while you go off and do what you do. And you do a lot of things behind people's back and stuff like that. And Heather finally just was like saying it all, like, girl, you've had a problem with multiple people on this show, like within our friend group. Like, it's not yeah, Angie said things, but she was matching your energy. You guys are both wrong. And Lisa's just like, I just can't believe you would think we're both wrong. And she's taking no accountability. She starts doing the fake tear thing. And she tries to, evade the whole situation. And then out of nowhere, Heather's like, and then you mentioned something about a soup man. Who is the soup man? And this is where we find out. 'Cause I didn't know either. And Lisa was like, soup man? I said suit man. Suit. And this was funny because it was a little bit break between this conflict where Heather's just like, well, a suit man sounds hotter. I was so confused because I was questioning Angie and the soup that she said like giving me. I was so confused. But the thing is, everyone at that table thought Lisa said soup man and not suit man. So that was funny that how that got cleared up. But basically, Lisa owns up to nothing. She leaves. Well, she tries to leave, but then she doesn't leave. And Heather's just like, girl, you have some accountability. Like, you need to own up to things or else it's going to get worse. Like, you need to own up to your part and your role in all these conflicts. And so that's kind of what happens here. Yeah. Does it go anywhere, really? I feel like the answer is no. I think you all know the answer to this because I feel like at this point we're a broken record because Heather has been trying to call this out for years. A lot of the women on the show has been trying to call this out for years with Lisa, but she just is still not. She's in her own world when it comes to that. And even her husband, it seems like this episode was trying to call it out. But from Lisa's perspective, I think she just sees it all as a pile on. And not seeing that she is a part in why she's being piled on. Okay, so then next we have this scene that I didn't know we were going to get. And it was good. It was a good scene, but not for the right reason. So Brittany finally meets up with her daughter. I think this is her eldest daughter, Olivia. And Olivia is gorgeous. She is a beautiful young lady and very wise beyond her years, very articulate. I love how the producers handled this scene. I'm going to say that right away because they could have given it just where it's all like, Brittany's side, and it was both perspectives. And we find out so much in this scene that Brittany was not always this version of herself. And I'm hoping, I know she's a friend of, so I don't know how deep we are going to get when it comes to Brittany, but this was honestly the first scene of Brittany that I feel like was her and not this caricature that she puts on for this show. And even though I don't respect what Brittany has been doing, and I think she's trash for that, it is a story that we need to see on TV because unfortunately there are a lot of women who are like a Brittany. And maybe seeing this on TV can change things before it gets to the point where their kids are adults. Because Olivia is clearly a young adult and wise beyond her years. And the way she was able to articulate her emotions and articulate her thoughts in this scene was just amazing. I cried a lot this episode. That was like, I think this was the second time I cried. This is it. Okay, so I lied. I cried twice. But this definitely I cried too when it came to this. And Brittany basically describes how, she was very much in the kids' lives when it came to the first husband. And then once that ended, she thought getting a second husband, she would still keep the nuclear family. So I don't think we're getting the surface from Brittany where, choosing the man over her over her children. But I think the original principle that she was trying to go with, but it just went way too far, is that she was really trying to make sure that the family nucleus stayed, but she herself in her actual actions killed it, because she put the priorities in the wrong spot to the extreme. Because, you should want your relationship with your spouse to be a priority, but it cannot be to the detriment of your children. And she went overly extreme with that, clearly, and I know it probably has a lot to do with the religion and all that. But they don't get that deep. But all that Brittany keeps saying is she's trying to understand why she did this, but the way it's coming out as if she's justifying the behavior. And Olivia, to her point, was so quick to shut that down. She's like, no, we're not going to shut that down. We're not going to do that. She's like, you got to take some accountability for your actions and why you would do that. Because when I put myself in your shoes, I can never do what you did. And I was like, and she said it all, this is all, by the way, it was in the most respectful manner possible. You could tell that she still really is yearning for a relationship with her mother, but she's terrified to get close to her because she doesn't want her to do the same thing again. And then she even paints a picture that last time they met up, Jared came over and she starts making out with Jared and she completely ignores her daughter. So this is a horrible pattern, but the reason why Olivia is willing to try, it seems like the younger one may not be willing to try because maybe she didn't see this other side of her. Olivia paints a picture that up until she was 12 years old, she had like the most prime example of the best mom ever. She was going to the PTA meeting. She was doing all the things. And something switched after 12. And I don't know if the divorce happened when she was 12, this is why I want to know more of. Did the divorce happen when she was 12? Did something else happen? Because I have a theory, and I'm not trying to take the accountability away from Brittany because I think what she did was trash and was really wrong. But I do think there actually is something wrong with Brittany, actually, like mentally. And I'm not trying to go all the way in on that, but just from what I see, something happened when she was 12. And we need a story of what it was, because something clearly happened. And that triggered something in Brittany. And maybe the reason why I'm giving Brittany a little bit of grace when it comes to this is the older I get, the more I'm finding out more things about my grandma. Who's no longer with me, and she's been gone for years, but I never had a grandma and granddaughter relationship with her up until the later years of her life. Basically, once she moved to the nursing home. Up until then, I was never cool with her. But I found out later on, and I keep finding out little Easter eggs of why. And I don't blame her. In a weird way, I just hope it doesn't come to that when it comes to the Olivia and Brittany. I think Brittany needs to do her part to make things better. I don't think she knows where to start, but I would hope they would maybe try to go to some family counseling, and not a religious-based family counseling thing, like an actual legit family counseling, and they both pick out who they want there to kind of, they pick out the therapist together so it's not bias leaning, and then that way they could actually talk to each other and build a relationship. But it's going to take a lot of work, and it was a very emotional scene. They cried. Both of them were crying. Olivia had this beautiful confessional, which, by the way, I love, again, how the producers handled this. But I do think there's more to the story, and I'm not trying to pacify her. I hope you guys realize I'm not trying to pacify Brittany, but it sticks with me that she said a switch happened. So when a switch happens, it means something traumatic happened that maybe Olivia and whoever are not aware of it. And Brittany kept that to the chest, and she kind of snapped. Because without getting too much into my family business, that is essentially what kind of happened with my grandma before I was even around. And so I never got my version of a grandma until actually a part of that chapter closed. Put it that way. We're not going to get into all of the other things, but family issues can get deep. Yeah. So hopefully we get more of this. And yeah, anyway, moving on. Child, you know how a couple weeks ago my reviews were so much less than? I can tell my energy's coming back to the way it was before because my reviews are longer. But that's a good sign, guys. But I am still going to stick to my guns for those who have heard me say this. Potomac's my last Real Housewives show I'm going to review for some time. So I know Beverly Hills is coming up in the docket. I think the Real Housewives of Rhode Island is going to be a new show too. I'm probably, even though I want to do this, continue the channel, I really do need a break. I need to really work on my fitness and health and wellness more. So we're going to take a break from the channel because this is time consuming. But even though I have more energy than I've had, because I've already been starting to do some of the work as far as like getting the energy back, as far as like figuring out my hormone levels and whatnot, those type of things. But anyway, I know y'all didn't want any of that. Moving on. We then have Heather and Meredith. They meet at the park. And child, part of me feels like this is so that Meredith has the scene because I don't know where she was going to fit in this episode. But anyway, they do meet up at the park. And Heather recaps the whole entire conversation she had with Lisa. And basically, she explains how her point of view, but I think Heather is overdoing it because Meredith's not sold on going against Lisa, like at all. And I'm honestly foreseeing everything that Heather has said to Meredith. Meredith is going to run and tell Lisa. I foresee that that's what's going to happen. And I feel like this is the beginning. I think this here is the beginning of Heather and Meredith's rift. Because Heather just cannot justify the way Lisa's acting anymore. She just can't do it. And also, this is kind of where we really find out the real reason and motive behind why Heather is switching up on Lisa. Is because she's afraid she's going to be the next target. Because literally, Lisa has targeted every woman on this show, but she really hasn't targeted Heather like that for real yet. Like, when it comes to like rumors and bringing up things on the show. And so, honestly, the Heather, back to like when they were at the shop, the Heather and Lisa conversation, for those who watch Real Housewives of Orange County, it literally reminded me of Heather Dubrow trying to reason with Tamra. It was a similar situation. Actually, it was almost the same situation. Because Lisa's the villain of this show and Tamra's the villain of that show. And even though they're close, she, basically Heather in a very, as a matter of fact way, is afraid of her. She's like, I am afraid of you because I don't want to get too close to you because you're going to expose it. You are playing housewives while the rest of us are trying to be friends on this show for the most part. Yes, a lot of them are playing housewives, but I think a lot of them are also wanting to be friendly at least and not go below the belt. But at the same time, if everyone's friendly, do they have a show? It's one of those. But anyway, and also too, I think Lisa's polarizing enough. There's going to be conflict no matter what without her doing what she's doing, allegedly. Because basically Heather's just like, yeah, she's pulled up dirt on everyone on this show. And I just don't want to be part of that. I'm not okay with that. And Heather, I do have to like tap you a little bit because you were okay with it for so long until you realize, oh, I'm the only one who hasn't been targeted yet. So I am gonna give you a little girl. It's not fun when the rabbit got the gun. Like, Anyway, Meredith is not sold. And Meredith is just like, you know, I'm going to choose to believe Lisa. Even though, do we think Lisa did what Angie's accusing Lisa of doing? Yes. And I am a little concerned that Heather went to Meredith with all this, just because I feel like anytime they go to Meredith with all this, it always comes across not out of concern, but it always comes across of they're trying to build an alliance. And I think that is how Meredith interprets it too, which why Meredith just stays where she's at. And she's like, yeah, no, I'm not going to be part of this. She's the queen of disengaging. That is what she does. She disengages. But yeah, so that's kind of what we have here. Anyway, moving on. Next, we have this short little fun scene where we have, because it wasn't that long of a scene when it came to the three of them, Whitney, which, okay, this was really so that Whitney was on the show, because otherwise Whitney was not going to be on the show. Whitney's also giving friend up a little bit, but neither here nor there. But Whitney basically have Angie and Mary come over, and we find out they actually get to choose a preference list of like things that they want for the yacht. So like they get to like, if they want a certain breakfast, they can like, basically they have a rider sheet, which I would love that type of vacation. I don't know why I had the reaction I did, but I just was like, oh my gosh, that would be the best type of vacation ever. If I was able to go somewhere and then I just had a rider sheet of the things I want, and then that's it, and they just come to my room and I don't have to ask for it. It just comes to me at a certain time and everything. So anyway, that's what they're working on. And we see then these cut scenes where all the other ladies have done this so far. And apparently Mary's the only one that hasn't done it. But the funny thing is she's the most bougiest of all of them. Which, side note, I don't know if you guys have, check out a YouTuber. Her name is Color Me Pink. She actually, well, the channel's called Color Me Pink, but her name's Keisha. But there is, she does like a ranking of the richest Real Housewives of Salt Lake City housewives. Mary's the richest. So this actually checks. So I'm like, okay, that actually makes sense. And so they do the fun list. And then as they're doing the fun list, and, you know, of course, Mary wants her Dom Perignon, and she wants her frappe, like, you know, the yogurt or whatever in the morning. Parfait. And so then out of nowhere, Whitney, being messy, she was like, have y'all been seeing the headlines? Oh, something comes up about tea or coffee. And, you know, Mary's like, always tea. She's like, oh, speaking of tea, Whitney's like, have you heard about what rumors are circulating surrounding Bronwyn? And they're like, wait, what? And it turns out there's these rumors of her creating fraud, identity theft. I was like, child, not another housewife. This is why I just need to insert another one bites dust up. Bum, bum, bum. Especially with Salt Lake, because, child, one, the scamming is going on. But anyway, then they were like, has anyone talked to her? And everyone's like, no. And then this is where they harken back to Todd and Bronwyn. And Bronwyn, what she is stating is some of these were her mistakes that she made in her college years. Right when she got dropped, when she was forced to drop out of BYU, and she was getting evicted. And then the other thing was from 10 years ago. None of this is recent, but it's basically a lot of like her things resurfacing. And so she's like, I clearly haven't done any of this in years. And she basically just talks about this was just like not a proud moment in her life. And this is a different time of her life when she was younger. And, you know, it's not okay. Like, you know, the whole spiel. And then she's apologizing to Todd right away because Todd is in the hedge funds like type of field. And you cannot be around anyone that has done any like fiduciary financial fraud. That's a no-no when you're in the finance or financial industry. as someone who's also, my day job is in the financial industry. There's certain things you just cannot be around. You like, especially if it's like your spouse, yeah, that could implicate you. And so Todd is like, if you really, they're talking about Lisa again, but really to me, when Todd is talking about Lisa, I think he's really talking about the show and not necessarily Lisa. To a certain degree. It's a little interchangeable, I think, when they're talking about it, but I think Lisa is code for the show. Because, yeah. Anyway, so Todd's like, this is why I don't understand why you want to be on the show, but like basically why you still want to be friends with Lisa. That's why it doesn't make sense. He's like, why you still want to be friends with Lisa? But the reason why they're also saying it, so it's a double entendre, is because they think Lisa is the one who's behind leaking these rumors out to the media. Because it's not like it is stuff that, and of course it happened right after they pieced it up. Very similar to how Lisa went below the belt with Angie after they pieced it up. So she's thinking that is what it is, and she's not okay with it. And so that's kind of where the episode ends. And yeah, that's a lot, isn't it? That really, that's crazy. I think there was something else I was going to say, and I don't really remember when it came to the Bronwyn of it all. But yikes. But anyway, that does conclude this episode. Again, it was really, really good. A lot going on, as there always is. This show is given what always needs to be gave, per usual. But anyway, that does conclude my review. Please like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you get anything out of the content. It's your girl Sharon, aka the Melanin Nostalgic Runner. And I will see you next time. Bye.